Welcome to Fiber Chronicles, where you will join me on my journey through the fiber arts. I'm Bonnie. I have some book reviews for you today. These are knitting books. They're ones I've acquired over the last few years since I started dabbling in design. And they're ones that I find very useful and think are excellent books to have in your resources. If you want to make changes to a pattern that someone else has designed, or whether you want to design your own, either way, they are very helpful. The first one I will show you, I originally found an older version at the library. I checked it out, I looked at it, I loved it, I decided I want this book. So I looked for it and found there was a brand new addition to it. I looked at reviews, I looked at all sorts of things to try and figure out, well, is it worth the extra money, because the new version cost more, to buy the new one, or should I just get the old one? The book is The New Knitter's Template. The original one was The Knitter's Template. It is by Laura Militzer Bryant and Klein. The original one, or the first one, was made specifically to assist you in making alterations to knitted garments so that you could make sure that they fit you properly. It has all the information that you need in order to do this, as just renders itself to be helpful in doing your own design. In the new version, they've added a few things to help you to be able to use it more fully in doing your own design, though it is still mainly set up as doing alterations. What I really like about this book are some of the templates they have inside. They are very nice templates. They also have some charts that are extremely helpful. And I will go through these with you, and so that we can see the different things that it has. I'll just be showing you some of what's in the book. I won't show you every page. It does have a table of contents. There aren't a whole lot of things in the table of contents, but that's because each section has quite a bit of its own. It has an introductory page, a user's guide that gives you some ideas on the best way to use the book. It has some just general information on yarns and gauge, style, and all of the basics like that. It has these templates that help you to decide what style of clothing you want, whether you want a V-neck, a round neck, how high or low you want the neckline, what type of sleeve you want, how long you want it, those kinds of guides. It shows some basics about the different styles. It has a yardage chart. This is a very nice thing to have because it gives you approximate sizes on how many yards of yarn you want in your gauge and for what you want your garment to be like. It talks about your body measurements and what you want for that. It has an actual body measurement chart so that it shows you where to measure and how to measure so that you'll be able to have your measurements correct. It has a chart on finished measurements and what size you are. And then it has a blank worksheet for going through on the different styles you need, what your actual style measurements are, what the finished garment measurements you want, and how to figure out the different aspects. It has a large diagram showing the different types. When I put together my sweaters, then I took a highlighter and highlighted the style I wanted. I wanted it to be this length, so I highlighted that portion. I actually wanted mine to be fitted, so I came in and then came back out again with my highlighter. It talks about the different aspects of a sweater and how you might want to use them and what things you need to consider as you're making those. It talks about how things feel, how to measure gauge. It has one thing that this one has, the last one didn't have, is the FAQ portions, which are, they had questions. The authors had questions, people asking, well, how does this work? And so she came with these questions and gave the answers to those questions in here. It has a little bit about using different textures of yarns and how those might work for you. And then it has a guide for working with the actual templates. And then, of course, you come to the templates themselves. Now, what this has is it has the gauge. 6 stitches by 8 rows equals 1 inch as the gauge. It has the finished bust size. And then as you come down, then it tells the general or the average size or number of stitches you will need for that measurement. So if you want to have a 38 bust, finished bust measurement, then across the back for just a straight body you will want 114 stitches. And that isn't exact, but that's a guide. And yours might be a little bit more or a little less depending on what you some people have a wider back than others, or a smaller chest, which makes the back a little bit more. But it has this all the way from 6 stitches per inch up to 2 stitches per inch. And what's really nice is it has this photograph on the side of each one showing what that gauge looks like. So here you're looking at this small gauge of 6 stitches per inch, which for 4 inches, that would be 24 stitches per 4 inches. 6 times 4, yes. And so that is, I would think about a sport weight actually. And so yes, this does look kind of like a sport weight, possibly a fingering that you're using larger needle size. So it doesn't go down too small, and then it comes up to, this would be 8 stitches per 4 inches, so that would be a super chunky size. It has an abbreviation and of terms glossary here for certain stitches. It's not very in depth, but it does have the basic ones. And about the author, I have my measurements. I've printed those up. I've written up different notes as I went. So that's what I have here in the back, is just different notes on the sweater. This is what I did on my worksheet, and I was actually having mine come down, and so I drew out just what I was planning on doing for my sweater. It makes it really helpful to be able to alter patterns so that they are just right for you. And if you want to make something, then it helps with that also. I would say if you have the original knitter's template, this one doesn't really give you enough that you would want to go out and buy the new one, this one. But if you don't have the first one, and this is your first one you're getting, then it isn't enough more expensive to say, well, I'll just go with the cheaper one. And so I would go with the new one if you don't already have the old one. But in my opinion, you don't need to buy the new one if you do have the old one. The added information in here, most likely you've used it, and it isn't stuff that will help necessarily for someone who has already used the original one. I hope you enjoyed this review on the New Knitter's Template by Laura Militzer Bryant and Barry Klein. I know that your needs may be different than mine, and so you need to keep that in mind and while you're thinking about what you want if you're considering buying the book. And maybe check out your library, see if they have it, and make a decision. Thank you for joining me on my journey through the fiber arts. You can find me on Facebook and Ravelry as Fiber Chronicles. Bye.